Yo, what up, what up, what up? I'm back, and I should have been back much longer ago, but this takes forever. You know, you give a person an inch and they take a mile. Somebody had called me because I posted on Marketplace, Facebook's Marketplace, that I had, these for sale. Can you see 'em? Yeah, there you go. I mean, people love Apple stuff. Everybody loves Apple stuff for some reason. Or those who, I can't say everybody, so sorry, I didn't mean everybody, but I put, I will consider reasonable offers. And then I get dipshits who go over there and say I'm selling, them for, they retail for 100 something plus tax, and I'm selling them for, $80. Would you take 40? I'm thinking to myself, you know, I don't condone violence, but I will Will Smith the shit out of you if I seen you in person and you told me that. I'm like, and then I'll mess around with them and I'll tell them, oh yeah, yeah, I could definitely take 40. I was like, 40 will cover the price of one, and probably like a little holder. So yeah, I could get you one AirTag and one little holder for it for 40. They don't say shit back. I don't know if they think I'm fucking stupid or something, but I'm not gonna sell a product where I'm only making half of what it's worth. And I get it, times are tough, but don't be trying to buy AirTags at the times are tough. You know, concentrate on what you need to get, not what you want to get. Anyways, second thing, I'm sorry I have to say this every disclaimer because it feels so weird, but prior to July, every video that I've ever made has always had premium, YouTube premium. You would never see commercials, you would never see ads, none of that. Um, I filmed a commercial for YouTube, and then right after that, I did my feature length film, which I wrapped my part, and that should be coming out next year. Now, this is a high budget Hollywood, film that, I never really had the desire to be in front of the camera. I was my goal was to always work in the music industry, and when that happened, I was like, you don't really have a backup dream. And I never intended on, I went to acting classes, but I'm like, no one's gonna hire this big old fat ass. And at the time, that was my thinking until I decided to start doing something about it and lost weight. But they caught me in my transition because, mind you, at my biggest, I was 330 pounds and I was college bound. But I had fractured my vertebrae. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go out there and get paralyzed. I don't love the game that much. I actually like basketball more, but I'm at a weird height. So I was 6'4", 6'4.5", 6'5" are usually point guards, and those dudes are crazy fast and quick. And I might be able to shoot a good three, but yeah, I'm not hanging with those dudes. So um, when I still remember like it was yesterday, and I pulled it up just to kind of show how funny this is. So I lost weight very slowly. I got scarred by seeing one of those shows about somebody who had gastro bypass surgery and lost that weight too quick. And then you even seen it on the last Austin Powers movie when Fat Bastard loses all that weight and his skin's all hanging. I'm like, shit, I hope that doesn't happen to me. And my friend's like, not if you lift. And my boy, he was going out for Mr. Colorado. I mean, he was like 280, maybe 2% body fat. I don't know, something extreme like that. I mean, he was just ripped, and he knew how to, lift weights, and do it right. And so the regimen was, let's just do it slow, just burn the weight off little by little by little. And since you're still young, you know, that elasticity of your skin will stay. It won't get all loose. And sure enough, it did. And I was like, thank you, Lord, that I had somebody there to help me along the way. So it's always good when you have somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to fitness. But there was this point where we were going to be doing a show. And while I was there, they were highlighting the club that I was at. And I come walking by, and the photographer, I guess, like took the photos of the first time Pamela Anderson was on the cover of Playboy, this and that. You know, they're all like speaking all highly. I'm like, yay, great. You know, like I said, I don't get, you know, all giddy over celebrities. There was only two of them I ever was like, holy shit, that's so and so. It's only happened to me twice. Other than that, never been, you know, all like happy and giddy, with the exception of those two. So, as I'm walking by, they're like, I hear them say, "Hey, he's a good-looking Hispanic," and I stop and I'm like, "There's other Hispanics here besides the ones that are cleaning the tables?" I'm like, "Oh, you're talking to me?" They're like, "Yeah, would you want to be in this photo shoot?" I'm like, "Not really, but like what are you?" They're like, "Oh, you know, we'll pay you this much, and you know, trust me, we have you know, so many different scenarios, and you know, we'll give you center page." I'm like, all right, you know, I guess. I said I didn't have time to spare. I mean, you know, the club wasn't even open, and the crew was already just setting up, and so I was just gonna be sitting around doing nothing anyways. So um, they start taking the pictures, and I swear to God, my jaw and my like cheekbones hurt so bad. They kept on saying, "Smile, smile," and I'm like, "I am fucking smiling." I'm like, so I turned towards the girl, and I'm like, you know, because this is while I was still drinking. I told her because you know I was got a little tipsy, and I said, "You got to do something to help me to smile here, or else we're gonna be stuck here all night." I'm like, talk about, you know, something like, you know, you're gonna take me home and, you know, give me the best day of your life. And so she starts talking to me like that, and anytime I went there, I mean, that's all I ever got offered, you know, was, you know, two girls or a girl coming up to me like, "Hey, me and my girlfriend want to know if you want to come over." And, you know, say I wasn't drinking, I'd be like, "Oh, what do you guys want to do? Like, you know, play some board games, get down like on some Scrabble or checkers, you know, Monopoly, some shit like that." No, you know, like something that we, you know, the three of us could do together. I'm like, "Oh, I would whoop your guys', you know, ass in basketball if you want to play some basketball. You know, the you two versus me, or, you know, it would be done." They're like, "No, we're talking about something, you know, being, you know, bare naked." I'm like, "You got some of those? Because those are fucking good. Those are high in protein. Definitely keep those." That's how naive I was until I was drunk, and then I would get, "Oh, that's what she's saying." So, yeah, I really was that bad because when you're fat, like I was very, very, very popular in high school, but just not with the women, you know. I was the popular kid that could go and buy alcohol because I was so massive. Nobody's gonna card me. So I used to have kegs. I mean, even the liquor store guy would give me like bags of free shooters. And I'm like, man, if this guy only knew how old I was, I know he would have never sell to me. So I'm just keeping this shit on the down low. So when I finally decided to kick in gear and start losing weight, I finally got down, you know, past 330, went down to 320, 310. And right here in this photo, I was about maybe 275, 265. And I hated the way it came out. Uh, there's me and all my chubbiness glory. And of course, they had to show food. I was like, you couldn't have shown any of the cooler pictures that you had taken upstairs, because one of their stupid lighting films, that they put over the lights, they're kind of like, I don't know what the hell they're called, but they have like, red ones, blue ones that, they put over the light to give them the coloring that they need. It caught on fire. And so there was like this big old fire, and all the pictures that they had taken of me up there were just, yeah. They're like, oh, we're done. So, of course, I knew after that, yeah, they're not going to use any of the pictures up there. So, they had me go down here and take these pictures. And, of course, I had a 5-star meal with, a hot girl on my arm. And that's about the best smile you were going to get out of me. I mean, I smile much better than that when I'm truly happy. This was like my cheeks were hurting. I was like, I'm done. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. You've been having me here for 6 hours now. Things are about to start. There's already a line forming outside. You guys gotta, like, I gotta wrap this up. And so I didn't have any say, any choice in the matter. That's the picture they picked. And I was like, you guys are nothing but assholes. Thank you. Anyways, so I don't know if I finished my whole mentioning about the ads and everything, but if I did, that's why there's ads there. Just because I'm waiting to see this commercial that they made and how they edited it. As soon as that comes up, the premium's gone, but I thought I'd share a little something about me with you guys and that funny fat picture of me with oh my God, it was just, yeah, it was one of the funniest pictures I've ever taken, and one that I wish they would at least given me a little bit of control over. So, but anyways, so as you all know, we always get into some Mike territory on a Friday. Every Tuesday and Fridays, he comes out with a new video, so I'm anxious to hear what he has going on this one. So, let's jump to it.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, what I have for you today is a story. It's a story which, A, takes us to Lakeland, Florida, because where else? And B, involves probably one of the most unusual plots, schemes I've come across. So unusual.
Canada and Florida are the two main places that it always seems like he's always cracking jokes on, because that's always where some weird shit is taking place. And so whenever it's Florida or Canada, I expect something funny.
Usual that there are still quite a few mysteries which remain, even though it's solved. Kinda sorta. In Lakeland, the Wiles family had their business, National Flight Services, operating out of Lakeland Linder Airport. Unfortunately, someone had a problem with that business, and it all began with a sinister note. So, let's give it a go. To the east of Lakeland City, which is pretty much like right smack dab in the middle of Florida, lies, well, what you got there for you? You got an airport. Lakeland Linder International Airport. It's a small airport, getting smaller all the time. These days it does a lot of cargo, a lot of training, but it used to take a fair bit more flights than it does now. Especially when our story begins, and it begins in 2008, specifically April of that year. On the 2nd of April, Thomas Wiles, he was in work. Thomas Wiles was the owner of National Flight Services, had been since 1972. National Flight Services had a hangar at Lakeland Linder, and essentially, just to cut a long story just like a little bit shorter, it did exactly what it says in the tin, my friends. And by that I mean aircraft maintenance, charter services, training, all that sort of stuff. You need it, they would do it for you. They mainly operated out of Lakeland, but they did have offices in Ohio, Texas, and Canada. In fact, that is where Tom was, right in the head office, the corporate office, the mothership, Swanton, Ohio. And so it was on the 2nd of April 2008 at 5:59 p.m, 1 minute to go lads, I already had the jacket on, that Tom Wiles, he received an email. Just as he was about to, switch the computer off, he got that ding, and the email was from his son, Robert, his only son, Robert. Robert worked in the family business. He was in the main hangar in Lakeland, and he had been an employee there for about 3 years now at this point. But he wasn't in any of the offices this day. Now, when I say Tom got an email from his son Robert, I kind of misspoke actually. Sorry about that. He got an email from Robert's email address. The email address being maverick2836@gmail.com. Wow, a pilot who calls himself Maverick. Get out of 10. Now, the fact that a pilot wants everybody else to know they're a pilot makes you laugh. I have family who are pilots, I can say that. But the contents of the email were really not that funny. But they were odd. Not exactly the kind of stuff you want to read as you're ready to knock off for the day. He's probably 1 foot out the door already. But the email from his son Robert's email address read like so.
We have Robert. If you hope to see him alive again, you must follow our instructions without deviation. 1. Do not speak about this to anyone, including family. Tell everyone Robert is ill. 2. Do not contact any authorities or private parties. 3. Obtain an item of luggage of the appropriate size and place in it $750,000 in small, unmarked, untraceable bills. 4. Place the luggage containing the money in a plain cardboard box and ship it to your Lakeland facility with detailed instruction that it is highly confidential materials for a special project that your son is working on. You should instruct someone you trust to place the box unopened in your son's office. 5. This must be completed by the evening of the 8th. No excuses, no exceptions. Remember, we are watching everything, and if you think you can outsmart us, it will cost your son his life.
To me, that kind of sounds like the son trying to extort money from his father. Huh. I mean, that's weird. I bet that his son's trying to extort money from him somehow.
Group X.
Quite scary email from Group X. And Robert Wiles had last been seen on the 1st of April, but this was no April Fool's joke, unfortunately. That email is so ridiculous it would be pretty funny, but it's real. Young Robert was 26 years old, from Ohio. The entire family was, in fact. Robert grew up with 2 sisters, and after he graduated from military academy and got his pilot's license, he began working in the family business, working as business development manager down in Lakeland. And he loved it. If he wasn't flying, he was fishing, and so he had it all down there. He lived alone in an apartment in Lakeland.
I don't know if you guys ever went tuna fishing, but that is, yeah. Ask somebody who's gone before, because it is the biggest pain in the ass.
He dated quite a bit, but at the time, he had no steady girl by his side. The company, National Flight Services, it was a multi-million-dollar company, and it was kind of like Robert was kind of tipped to take over from his dad, Tom, when he retired. So someone obviously felt that the family, the Wiles family, would do anything to, get their son back, their heir, to the family business. And they felt they would be desperate enough to get him back, they would do anything. They were right. The Wiles family immediately got the $750,000 together, and were planning and ready to pay whatever it took to get Robert back. Almost immediately, they wired money to a bank in Florida, and Tom flew down to get it. The ransom did have a sell-by date, and they didn't want to mess around with it. And although the ransom note said, no authorities, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Except when we do. Tom had called the FBI right away, and the FBI said, no, you're not paying shit.
Black women are 4 times more likely to die than their white counterparts with the same symptoms.
The FBI began their investigation into who had kidnapped Robert. Probably someone he knew, or at least had, some ties to the company. It's very rare it would be a random ransom. So they dug. And going back, when Robert had last been seen on the 1st of April, he'd been in a hangar, it had been a normal day. It was like at one point he was there, and the next he was gone. The day before, on the 31st of March, he had travelled to Fort Lauderdale to meet with reps from an airline, but that business meeting it all went well. And so on the 1st of April, like I said, it was business as usual. He was seen in the building between 3:30 and 4 p.m, giving contact information to an employee who was heading off on a business trip. And he was last seen between 6 and 6:30 p.m. in his office by one of the other head honchos, operations manager Toby Holt, as Toby was leaving for the day. And he said he saw him in his office and everything was fine. It seems Robert was in the building till at least 7 p.m, as he was sending emails till then, and the emails, they sounded like Rob. But then he vanished. He had a flight on the 2nd of April at 7 a.m. He was supposed to fly to Dallas for a meeting. He never made it. And his car was still in the National Flight Services car park. So last thing we know is that he was alone in the building at about 7 p.m. And he just vanished. And then later, on the 2nd, the ransom was sent. But by who? Group X. I mean, that's an anagram for rogue pucks. Might be something there. Let's keep on. So the amount demanded was $750K. And one person who was looked at was Robert's own mother. See, Robert's mother, Pamela, and his dad, Tom, had divorced. And Tom had to buy Pamela out of the business, as she had, her share of it. The amount he had to buy her out of it was $750,000. It's a very specific amount that the ransom... Like, why would the ransomer want $750,000? Why not $500,000 or $1 million? Why $750,000? So then you gotta look at Rob's dad, Tom, who is now down $750,000. And it just so happened that the company had kidnap insurance. How many companies have kidnap insurance? Though seriously.
Really?
I can't imagine a lot. But National Flight Services did have kidnap insurance. I mean, I suppose you might want it if you're really bad at your job and you're like, well, hey, I might get kidnapped, I'm so shit. Maybe they figured it might happen. And it did. Although I can't speak for them being shit at their jobs part. The family were grilled, as was Robert's life, and he had a good one. The only issue someone mentioned was that shortly before he was kidnapped, he'd been having some work trouble. Office bullshit, essentially. For example, one employee had been recently fired for drinking on the job, and he had been adamant about getting his job back. So who could Group X be? Right, well, they sound like a shitty dance group, but I mean, it could be one person. It might not be a group, might be one person. Could even be a dog. But a lame name, deadly intention. Though if you don't cut off Robert's finger and send it to, show that this is serious, is it even a real kidnapping? But before the investigations, and the FBI and the authorities could get too deep into finding out who Group X was, the 8th of April came out at pay-up time. The kidnappers wanted the money placed in a box in Robert's office, which was an odd place to pick up, some kind of drop-off point, but hey. The FBI, though, they weren't planning on paying up, and they said, let's put coffee in the luggage of appropriate size, as the ransom note said. They put in enough coffee to weigh as much as the money would. They also had a camera placed in the office, and a SWAT team close by. They had Toby Holt. He was the trusted employee who would hand off the money, and he even came in there to switch the camera over, but nothing happened. No one came to collect the money that day. Even though, as I said, it's an odd place for why would the kidnapper go back to the scene of the crime? But yeah. And that was it. They never heard from the kidnappers again. It was complete silence after that. Yeah. I agree. What the fuck? The Wiles family went on TV. There was a $250,000 reward. They were begging for any information that would bring their son back. So what the shit was behind all this? Was it like a sick joke? Was Robert alive? Did he kidnap himself? Because somebody came out and said, yeah, he had actually joked about kidnapping himself shortly before he was kidnapped, right? And he knew there was kidnap insurance. Tips came in, searches were made in the swamps, in the lands around Lakeland. The drunk employee, he ended up disappearing, and people thought, well, maybe it was linked. But he later turned up and died shortly after. The entire office was searched from top to bottom. Everyone who worked there interrogated. But no Robert. So, the investigators, they went back then, and they started looking at Robert's phone records, where he had made calls, and when he had made them, because the kidnappers had made calls from Robert's phone to Thomas Wiles' phone and sent him texts. They never, like, spoke on the phone, they would just call him and then hang up. They were essentially trying to get Tom's attention to pay up. They were able to narrow it down that one of the calls, around the 2nd of April, was made on a turnpike nearby. But if the phone was made in a turnpike, it would likely be inside a car. All you're going to see is cars and road, and Robert's car never left the National Flight Services. So the police did the only thing they could think of. They asked Tom to come in and view the footage of, okay, this is the road, right? A call was made from Robert's phone on this road. Look at all the cars that are driving by. Maybe you might recognize one of the cars. Tom did. He saw Toby Holt's car. This guy, the trusted employee who had been there at the money drop-off. Holy balls! In the footage, it appeared he had been on the phone. And when they looked into Toby's own phone records, well, he wasn't using his own phone. So where was Toby when Robert vanished? Well, Toby said he left the building between 6 and 6:30 and he saw Robert in his office. He later changed it to 6:15. Then he went to Hooters for dinner at 6:45, where he stayed for an hour and had a couple of beers. CCTV did not show him entering or exiting Hooters that day. Then he said he went to Outback Steakhouse. No one could confirm he was there either. Then he went to a hotel. But also that particular night, he did go to Home Depot and buy 2 rolls of duct tape and a box of plastic sheeting. He entered the Imperial Swan Hotel at 9:04. He left at 9:13. He returned then shortly before midnight. What he was doing during those 3 hours is unknown. In fact, there is like a 4 to 6 hour period where no one has a clue what Toby Holt was doing that night, the night of the 1st of April when Robert Wiles vanished. The only thing we know is he didn't go to Hooters or Outback.
Moon Haze, a hazy pale ale that tastes so juicy it should come with an R rating.
Tim Meyer was another employee at the National Flight Services office. He left at 6:10 p.m. and he was clocked out. See, Tim had to clock in and out, but Toby didn't. So we can be sure Tim left at 6:10 p.m. And he said that when he was leaving, the only cars left in the car park were Robert's and Toby's. Toby would later change his story and said he had in fact left before Tim did. So only Tim and Robert were left in the office. The police searched Toby's car, and he was fine with it. He was asked if he had a gun in the car. He said no, but he should have said yes because they found one. Toby was a married man, 42 years of age. He had a lot of girlfriends, real hound dog, this guy. He didn't have a criminal history. The only thing about Toby is he loved living beyond his means. He loved, writing checks his ass couldn't cash. And that's maybe what led him into conflict with Robert. See, Robert was complaining about, office bullshit a bit more than just the drunk guy he had to fire. Toby and Robert's offices were right by each other, but they couldn't have been more further apart. Toby was the operations manager, and he'd been working there a year before Robert. And he'd been cultivating a cult of Toby, if you will. He'd been essentially hiring people who were loyal to him. He wanted his guys in there, not the Wiles family guys. He was trying to get Robert out. He was cutting him out of the loop constantly, but he also wanted him transferred entirely and was manipulating customer contracts for his own wallet. This led to fights between Robert and Toby. Robert thought Toby was overcharging customers. Toby would also get employees to send him emails of their, quote, negative observations about Robert. He was essentially making a list of things people hated about the son of the boss. This is like toxic office politics, but like beyond. The day after Robert vanished, Toby now was sending emails saying things like, "Hey, things are great. Robert is being, quote, pretty good. Wow, he's being a good boy now." When both phones are traced for what they were up to in the week after Robert's disappearance, both Toby and Robert's phones were found to be together for substantial amounts of time.
A Florida man sits behind bars tonight accused of killing and kidnapping Toledo native Robert Wiles. It's just one piece in a puzzle that is still a mystery tonight. Fox Toledo's Sean Hegarty has information on today's arrest.
Wiles disappeared in April of last year, and in that time, the search for Wiles has gone to 4 different states, here in Ohio, of course, and it's stretched to Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida. In Florida today is where that arrest was made. We know that authorities took Stobart Holt Jr. into custody in Orlando. He was indicted earlier this week for first-degree murder in the death of Wiles. Holt is also charged with kidnapping, extortion, and for written threats to kill or do bodily harm. Wiles' body has not been recovered, so that's a major part in this mystery tonight. Also, for any kind of motive or details or any information about exactly what happened, the indictment does not list that information.
In December 2009, Toby was arrested. He denied any involvement in Robert's disappearance. He kind of denied, well, everything. Buying the stuff in Home Depot. He was changing where he went and when he went there.
Almost the entire day as Toby Holt sat on the witness stand, his composure never wavered. He remained calm, relaxed, even smiled at times as he recalled embarrassing details, like how the investigation revealed his countless extramarital affairs.
He didn't have a clue why Robert's phone was with him.
How did it make you feel when you saw this photograph and it appeared that his phone was very close to you?
It was disturbing, and the more I thought about it, the more scary it seemed.
Why did it seem scary to you?
Well, for one, I knew that I didn't have Robert or his phone in my car.
The defense tried to argue for a circumstantial case. No evidence. Nothing to prove Toby was involved with whatever happened to Robert. Robert, everyone was pretty sure, was dead now. There had been no activity on anything. But there was also no blood, no body. And the defense argued the fact that, they didn't get on. Well, you have, office arguments in every office.
The state actually just wrapped up its closing arguments about a half an hour ago. When they were wrapping them up, you were sitting there listening to all this, and you're going, wow, what they're saying makes perfect sense. But then you have to stop and remember, it's all circumstantial evidence. This is a murder case, and they don't have a body.
He starts the conversation.
With no body, the prosecution would rely on timelines and what they say is the odd behavior of Toby Holt in and around the time when Robert Wiles went missing. Robert's family would listen on as the state stressed to the jury that even with no body, they absolutely believed Robert was murdered.
Now, 3 things. The first was that Toby was found guilty of manslaughter. He was charged with murder, but I guess the jury is some kind of compromise. They went with manslaughter.
Mr. Okay, more than likely, I'm guessing he did it. More than likely. But see, that's why so many people are scared to take that chance, and so many innocent people take plea deals. Because they know if they're leaving their future in the hands of their, peers, I mean, that is circumstantial evidence, and that I wouldn't understand. I mean, that's why I think it's bad when, the news immediately reports it, because it's going to get out to everyone. And in this day and age, every little thing is going to get fed into, social media. It's going to get fed into your TV, and you're automatically going to start thinking, well, wow, it's definitely him. Personally, I'd be leaning, it was toward, it was him. But if I were a juror, it'd be much more different. You would have to take into consideration the fact that, yeah, they don't have a body, they don't have a weapon, they don't have, blood or DNA forensics anywhere in his car. Because I'm sure, they did that already, and that's just, yeah. He hired a sucky defense team.
Holt, if you'd please rise and hear your verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the charge. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter.
That in a rage, he killed Robert Wiles, murdering him over office whatever. He was found not guilty of kidnapping, but he was found guilty of extortion. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. He still proclaims his innocence and has appealed, though it has gone nowhere.
I did not participate in any kidnapping of Robert Wiles. I don't know anything about his disappearance. I'm not sure who was involved.
Toby, did you murder Robert Wiles?
Absolutely not. I did not murder Robert Wiles.
You did not harm him in any way?
Absolutely not. I had nothing absolutely against Robert Wiles or his family.
You are telling me that you are an innocent man wrongly accused of this crime?
That's absolutely true. The honest truth is there's no conclusive proof of anything.
Do you believe Robert Wiles could still be alive today?
I mean, it's possible, but I don't think it's probable.
2, we don't know of any motive. Was the ransom, the supposed kind of kidnapping plot, was that like a means of trying to cover up the fact that he murdered Robert? I don't know, some people still have their doubts if he was even involved at all. Why the entire plot happened, we still don't know to this day. The day Robert disappeared, Tim Meyer, the other last person in the building, said that day Toby was nervous, and he was oddly helpful about getting Tim out of the building, like helping him load his truck go quicker. Was Toby getting nervous because he was about to murder Robert, or was he just getting nervous because he was about to confront Robert about some work shit? 2 things. Either it was a confrontation, and Toby murdered Robert in just a rage-filled moment, or the other is that Toby was planning on murdering Robert and covering it up. Regardless, point number 3 is that Robert is still missing. To this day, 14 years later, he still has not been found. Toby denies having done anything to Robert. He said,
I have said this on other videos of Mike's, or Mr. Ballin's actually missing 411, is that, that would be the worst, the absolute worst, is not knowing. I much rather know if my loved one was deceased or alive. But when they're missing, I mean, to have a possibility of thinking, oh my God, they might be alive and they're just, put in a bad position where they can't reach out. I mean, those kind of thoughts would be running in my head. I would just want to know.
Says he's completely innocent. He left that day and Robert was fine. So if he did do something, he ain't saying. And that's probably the roughest of all. But that is the story of the complicated and convoluted ransom of Robert Wiles. A twisting and turning story, and a ransom with no point at all. So many questions, but with very few answers. To date. As always, to date, that is, because there's so much more to come out. But, Shanae. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate you doing so. This very weird ransom plot, it's definitely one of the stranger ones. I mean, if he murdered Robert, he already knew Robert was dead, but he wanted his parents to believe he was still alive by having this whole plot. That's pretty, twisted. But here, go on. By the way, if you'd like to see a new true crime video twice a week, please subscribe. It does help out. Every new video every Tuesday and Friday. But if not, yeah, I'm not your daddy, so don't worry about it. Also, if you want to check out some That Chapter t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and stickers, or the That Chapter Patreon, where it's $2 a month, you get some nice little bonuses. Check them out in the description below. But until the next little video, which will be like real soon, please, as always, take care of yourselves. Got it right this time, because I love you. Mike out.
Mike is a shit. I'm telling you, man. He's awesome. Definitely go. Show him some love. I mean, he does a hell of a good job on all these videos that he puts up. He's just, he's awesome. I would love to hang out with him. Mike, if you're listening, which I doubt you would be, but if you are, you seem like one hell of a good, down-to-earth person that would just keep us laughing for for an all-nighter, man. You're awesome. Keep up the good work. And for all those who have subscribed of late, thank you guys so much. It's really cool to see that. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'm be coming back with another video. I want to wrap up the Missing 411 series. So yeah, thank you guys for subscribing. That really blew my mind to see that the numbers have moved up. So I truly, truly appreciate it. So until I'm right back on, peace.